Hello everyone, this is Food is a Conversation Alumni Edition, session 42. Welcome to this event series, what we started in April this year, in order to introduce and give voice to our ecosystem members who attended any of the educational programs. I myself am also a graduate of the Food Innovation Master Program, but we have other educational programs, among others, the Food and Climate Shaper bootcamps, what we organize with FAO. Hi, Adrienne.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Made it home.
Very good. Good. I quickly do the intro and then we can start with the questions.
Okay,
so, as I mentioned, some of the people who were featured already on this conversation are actually graduates of the Food and Climate Shaper bootcamps. And why is it so important? Actually, we kick off the second digital edition tomorrow. So you can imagine how excited I am. So the next 4 weeks will be full with live conversations and different inspiring sessions about climate smart cities, oceans, farms, and kitchens, and closing the year before Christmas on the 20th of December with an amazing hackathon final. You will hear about this more during this conversation. So these sessions happen twice a week, once on Tuesday and Thursday, and we do it in different times to be able to cover different time zones, because as you can imagine, our ecosystem is all over the world now. On my list, there are many more people who I should feature in these lives. Approximately 150, 60 what we have on the list now, and we are expecting 40 more graduating December. So believe me, we will have content to deliver over the next year as well. So what you will hear, it's a very casual conversation of around 30 minutes, and you will hear the story of the person, their local food system, and also what are they actually busy with right now? How are they shaping our future? So now, if you cannot stay with us the entire time, don't worry, because it will be saved on IGTV. And yeah, I think it was enough from me. Adrienne, please introduce yourself. Tell us where you are dialing in from, and how did you end up on the digital bootcamp in July?
Okay. Hi, Julia, and hi, everyone. I'm calling from Bombay, where I've lived for the last 11 years. And I'm sorry, I just rushed home to be here because we were actually out plant shopping for a project. So I was in a car like filled with rose bushes, like all different plants, like 3 seconds ago. So I'm just catching my breath. But yeah, I'm calling in from Bombay. And how did I end up at the Future Food Institute? It was basically that the last 11 years I've been working in India as an organic farmer and landscaper, and pretty much doing that 24/7, like nonstop. Like obviously with the seasons, there were busier times and some downtime. But I really, in 10 years, I never really stopped to reflect on what I was doing. I really just kind of was running with it. The organic movement was picking up. People were getting more and more excited about using native species, about being a bit more clever with how they do their landscaping. And so it was just 10 years of working and projects and a lot of really exciting things and a lot of effort and work, and then, you know, a lot of doubting if I'm doing the right thing. And then when the pandemic hit, it was the first time for me, like probably for a lot of people, where I actually had time to, forced time to stop, slow down. I couldn't even visit the farms where I was working. I couldn't visit any of our sites. You know, we were in the middle of projects, like everyone else was in the middle of their normal life, and then everything was just put on hold and frozen. And the kind of beautiful thing that happened is that I finally got to digest what the last 10 years of work had been, and really started to think about what is it in my work that I love doing, what do I not like doing, where can I improve, what do I still want to learn. Because actually a lot of my learning was kind of happening on the job or only as needed. So if a project required me to learn something new, I would get to take that opportunity to learn that for that project. But it wasn't too conscious. It wasn't like I was sitting down saying, okay, I have to learn more about irrigation techniques. It was like, okay, this project has a water issue, so now we'll figure this out. And that's when I came across Future Food Institute and learned about the digital bootcamp. And it was just this really exciting opportunity to connect with other people, kind of step out of my bubble that I'd been in, and yeah, just learn. I don't know, learn. It was just an opportunity to learn. I didn't really have too many like expectations of what was going to happen, but I just was really, really looking forward to connect to other people and then learn more in the topic that I'm working in.
Yeah. And I think we realized on the kickoff that actually we met during our global mission in 2018 before. It was so funny. So yeah, there are a lot of touch points and synergies. And now that you already mentioned the project or the type of project you have been working on, first of all, I'm curious about that project, what you had the roses for in your car. And then if you could talk about Thrive and Fresh and Local, your previous projects, it would be lovely.
Okay, so we do all types of projects. The reason I had the rose bushes is specifically for a lovely person's terrace garden, and it's not really our normal projects that we do anymore because we're mostly looking at more systemic and food systems and larger things. But every once in a while, you know, you see a really beautiful small site and the person asks you really nicely if you'll help them do something beautiful with plants, and you're really excited to do it. So as soon as we're done with this call, I'm headed there to set up a small terrace garden that's going to have lime trees, lemon trees, and rose bushes, and a lot of butterfly attracting plants. And yeah, it should be really like a little corner of green in the city. That should be really beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, so fresh and local was how I initially started about 10 and a half years ago. And the real motivation for me was when I moved to Bombay. I was 21. I was living with a friend. I was volunteering at NGOs. We were having the best time. Life was so nice. And I was really comparing my life in India to my life, my previous life in America. And I felt in so many ways my life was so great in India, except for the food I was eating. So not that the food wasn't tasty or delicious, but in the US, I'd been exposed to and had access to organic food or to farmers markets for a long time. And at that time in India, when I came, you would buy most of your food from a market. So it kind of felt like a farmer's market, but it's not. But it kind of had that, like from a Western lens, I kind of felt like I was going to a farmer's market. But then I would read the newspaper and you would just hear story after story about how much chemical was being put on food, about how much food was rotting, about the state of farmers in India, about the rise of farmer suicide. So a lot of that was very new exposure for me. And I think in the West, I had just been a passive consumer who just felt good if I bought organic and farmer's market. And then all of a sudden I'm living in India where I'm loving my life. I'm thinking everything's great, but I'm really being challenged by the quality of the food that I'm eating and the kind of agriculture system that doesn't seem to be working for many. And so actually what I started doing was I was like, no big deal, I'll just grow my own food. How hard can it be? Which is like the naivety of being 21. And of course, like I learned that it was so difficult and took so much more work. And I would watch these really great YouTube videos. And then I would go to the garden centers in Mumbai and they would have nothing that matched, you know, what was on the video I just watched. And that was when I started to connect to other people who were growing food in the city to learn more about the existing urban farming movement that was in Mumbai at the time that had been around since the 70s. And I just started to learn and go volunteer, go visit farms. And after about a year, I just needed more space to practice and to grow. And so other people would kind of ask me what I was doing, and I would share with them what I was doing. And then that turned into doing workshops, not really teaching, more just sharing my process of learning how to grow my own food. And from that, we actually had the opportunity to apply for a grant and a fellowship for entrepreneurs, which wasn't at all what I wasn't thinking like that. I just thought, okay, I need to teach this person what I'm doing so they let me have their space so I can grow my lettuce. You know, it was that simple for me. And then and then that's how Fresh and Local was born, as a nonprofit, really to explore urban farming in Bombay. And with that, we ended up setting up a rooftop community farm on Muhammad Ali Road, which is one of the busiest, densest, kind of most polluted parts of the city. And we set that up in 2013, and that's still around today.
Wow. So are you still involved in the maintenance of this garden, or is that completely taken over by the community?
Actually, in that case, we are still involved in the maintenance, but for the last maybe 2.5 years, we haven't done anything regarding the composting. So the building residents are completely running that on their own. We still do some of the watering because right now, the way we've set it up, it's a bit of a tedious task. So that's something we haven't figured out how to translate. We probably could have designed a better system that was more fun.
Well, that was in 2013. You learned a lot since then.
I'm absolutely, like, I can't wait to maybe do another fundraiser. And it was actually funded by Kickstarter. And what we wanted was, the idea was that it would be funded by Kickstarter. It wouldn't belong to anybody. It would be available to the building residents, but on the weekends we could open it up to the general public for workshops and events.
Nice.
So I think in its first few years, we had something like 3,000 visitors, and we had 70 varieties growing there. So it's not like a hyper productive rooftop farm. It's more like a teaching farm with like a little bit of everything. And I've actually met so many friends who came there for workshops. So yeah, it's a really magical place for me. And that was really what Fresh and Local did. And maybe 5 years ago, with one of my really good friends, Jonathan, we started a company called Thrive, which is a kind of landscape and farming company, really to distinguish ourselves from the work that Fresh and Local did, because Fresh and Local was really about making farming accessible. We worked with a lot of NGOs. We did most of our workshops were pay what you want. We worked with an architect called Nicola Antaki on 4 collaborations where we would get grants and then do some kind of public art garden installation to raise awareness about either urban pollinators or growing your own food, or just the importance of supporting organic. And then when we started Thrive, that was really more as a for-profit venture to set up kind of sustainable farms that would actually be profitable, or bigger landscaping projects that didn't have to be an NGO. Yeah,
I understand. Very good. So you also have a new project, which was kind of born or accelerated during the bootcamp. So can you please tell us a bit more about Utangi?
Yeah, of course. So Utangi was the project we created as part of the bootcamp in the hackathon. And what's so cool about it is that it's really the combination. It's so many different ideas that I think all 5 of us in the group had in our minds. But individually, I don't think anyone had put it all together. And then, 48 hours of no sleep and just thinking and working and ideating together kind of really magically brought all these ideas together and gave us at least the start to something we really all wanted. Yeah, Arena. Hi, Arena. Yeah, it's something we all really wanted to do. And it started with us looking at the issue of food waste and food waste on farms. So post-harvest waste, what is grown but maybe not sold, and not sold for a variety of reasons. Maybe there's no market for it. Maybe it's ugly produce. Maybe there's just a surplus. Yeah, lots of different reasons why it might not make it to a market, but it still was grown and is on the farm. So it started with, how do you address that kind of waste? And kind of immediately when we looked at food waste as a problem and we broke it down more, we all realized that food waste wasn't really the problem that we cared about, and we more looked at farm workers and what did food waste mean. And for us, it meant that there was a surplus, or like of food, of nutrients, of nutrition sitting there that wasn't being used, and also potential money that wasn't being earned from that. And we really started to think of who would benefit from that. Like, why does that even matter? And obviously, the agriculture sector isn't really profitable. There is a lot of poverty in it. There's a lot of suffering, and there's a lot of malnutrition in the agriculture sectors around the world, but especially in India. And then when you dove one step deeper, you start to see that there's also that problem even worse if you're a farm worker. So a landless, a farm worker, or a farm worker who has land, but maybe it's unable to support themselves from that land, so also works on someone else's land. So Utangi was created as a initiative to kind of tackle the many different issues that farm workers face, but by capturing value that already exists and is not being used with farm waste.
Yes. So how far are you with this project? Because I had the privilege to listen to different versions of your pitch already since beginning of August, and I also heard on a previous session that you did visit one of the farm where you potentially could start implementing this project.
Yes, it was so fortuitous that 3 out of 5 of us were based in India. We were actually all in different cities, but I happened to move back to Mumbai 2 months ago. Arena was already based in Mumbai, and then Nikhil visited Mumbai 2 weeks ago. So yeah, we all got to sit on a boat and go to Alibag and visit a farm that I'm working on that's called Good Karma Farm, which we identified. And when I spoke to the owners of Good Karma Farm, they also really liked the idea of us using their space as the launch pad for Utangi, which really involves setting up a community kitchen, setting up a collective of female farm workers, and starting to explore all the different products and alternative markets for the produce that's left waste on the farm.
Yeah. So in your presentation, there was actually a product or a crop, what you mentioned, an elephant feet, or what is the name of the produce, what you would use and turn it into a new product?
So it's elephant foot yam.
Yes.
And it is, it's a common crop that grows kind of like a weed that's not, it's still consumed by a lot of people, but I guess it's not like a star crop, you know, it's not something people are really searching out. And there's a lot of different things you can make from it, which we all learned about from Arena, who's the chef on our team. And I believe you can use the leaves to make pestos or put in chutneys or add soups, and they're quite nutritious. And then the actual yam, you can make a variety of gluten-free products from, including noodles. So, yeah.
So exciting. So tell me, how far are you with the project? Are you already like piloting this? What are the needs? What would be the next steps? What could help Utangi to kick off?
Yeah, so right now what we've done is we've continued to work together once a week since the boot camp as a team, and really, like, I think we actually spend a lot of time just going back and really understanding each person's motivation and their true calling to be involved in this project, to make sure we're all aligned. So I think it's been a lot of team alignment and really making sure that the baseline morals, ethics, values that have brought us all together, that everyone's on the same page, which we are. And then also to really figure out what each person's individual goals are, and do we think this project will support that, and how much time and energy could everyone give to it. And so we kind of spent a lot of time just, I guess, becoming a more solid team. And now what we've done is we have our first funding proposal for the pilot. So that is pretty much ready, and we're just, I don't know, we're just locking down the details of that presentation and that pitch. But that is locked and loaded, and we already are lucky enough to have kind of separately the kitchen underway and is being built. So really where we are is getting a bit of money and that initial investment to kickstart it. And then we actually have to start recruiting our first cohort of women. Probably like in December. We have some beautiful rosella growing on the farm, so I've already shown it to Arena, and we don't use it at the restaurants that it's applied to. So that is our first example of farm waste. And so I think we've been talking about doing some kind of fundraiser, some kind of kickstart launch in December around Christmas with that first product. So yeah.
Oh my God. So exciting. Well, I will keep an eye on the progress. And if we come across any opportunities where you might be able to pitch this fundraising proposal, then we will be in touch. So this is one of the examples I bring up when I talk about bootcamp, to be honest. So do you want to tell us a bit more about the takeaways in general, what you took away from July? What was the most exciting part? What did you learn? What activities did you like the most?
Okay, yes. So I really, really appreciated the meditations that we did in the boot camp. They still stick with me as some of the more beautiful moments when I just really appreciated the time to kind of introspect on what we were learning and what we were taking in. I really appreciated you guys asking us some big questions about what motivated us or what was our, what kind of was coming to mind at this time. And then I really loved hearing what other people had to say. So I guess maybe because it was happening during a lockdown and during the kind of like height of the pandemic, it was so beautiful to get to connect to other people and kind of have these deep conversations about something that I'm really passionate about and that obviously everyone else who was there was super passionate about. So those really live on as some of my most favorite moments from the boot camp. On top of that, I really appreciated pretty much all of the guests and really seeing, again, getting kind of this glimpse of like an around the world glimpse of what different people are up to. Because again, sometimes when you're a practitioner and you're just working all the time and you're tired and you're in your own world and in your own head, you don't always spend that much time Googling what's happening in Japan or what's happening somewhere in Europe, and so that was like such a pleasure to have all of that information curated and like, served up to us, served up to me. So that I really enjoyed that. And then I think I knew a little bit about design thinking. And when we did the hackathon, we used a lot of the design thinking systems that you guys had taught us. And then we also used some systems and processes that my partner had shared that he uses for his NGO. And so I just really enjoyed kind of being forced to follow a system and a methodology to come up with to really dive deep in an idea. And also when you work alone a lot, you don't unless you're very disciplined, which I'm not, I don't feel like
I feel you.
I don't think I really feel the need to hold myself to a process, but I really felt the value when you have 5 people, all from different backgrounds, all with different experiences. And I was so fortunate that the team was really happy to do the project in India, in Mumbai, even on a farm that I was personally familiar with. So there was just so much having to get everyone on the same page and so much context setting. And I think having a system to follow to kind of get clarity in the idea was so helpful. And I appreciate it. And I've gone back to it now several times, which, for 10 years, I would have resisted doing something like that. But yeah, so it was a good experience. And I think doing it in the condensed time of a hackathon also didn't make it so tedious. And yeah, so it was great.
Super. I'm very happy to hear. So everyone who wants to have a similar experience, you still have a chance. I mean, we are running the last interviews because everything happens last minute. So you have a chance to join now, but this is not the last bootcamp we will do actually, starting tomorrow. Most probably the next one will kick off in March. But stay tuned, obviously we will share the information. So Adrienne, I always have one last question or final question when I ask from everyone. And that's how would you describe your preferred food future? And you don't have any barriers, it can be utopistic. How would you like to see our future?
So I guess this is something that I've been writing a lot about, like personally. And so the word that keeps coming up is this idea of purposeful. And yeah, what keeps coming up is this idea of like purposeful local loops. Like, how can we kind of unite on an intention, which is to grow and eat really healthy, nourishing produce that's grown in a way that's in harmony with nature, that's not destroying the environment, that's not taking more than it gives back, and that is also benefiting everyone at every stage. So from the person who's growing it, to the person who's transporting it to you, to the person who's consuming it at the end. Can we not come up with a system that takes everyone's needs into account and really, yeah, gives them a sense of purpose also? Like, I feel like I really start to question even agriculture as a business. Even the idea of, like, how do you support yourself as a farmer, farming, growing food, but how do you also nourish people and not create starvation or malnutrition? So I don't have an answer, but I keep coming back to purposeful, local, and loops, connections, visibility, understanding.
Yeah, I think this is very important. And also what you just said about how do you maintain or sustain yourself, but also keep the nourishment of others in mind when you are a grower. Because I feel like in our food supply chain currently, value is defined wrong. Value is defined based on monetary successes, and nutrition is somewhere, it just disappears along the way. So how could we maybe redefine nutrition so that's actually part of the design along the way, and as you said, takes into consideration everyone's needs. So Adrienne, thank you so much for this insightful session. Good luck with your project. I would not hold you back, not that the roses won't arrive to that beautiful terrace.
We filled the car with plants, and we've just left it downstairs with the trunk open and all the doors open, or the windows down and the trunk open, so that it doesn't get too hot.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I hope no one will feel like they should serve themselves from the car then.
If you steal a rose bush from my car, you deserve it right now.
All right. Thank you so much. For the audience, if you haven't watched from the beginning, it will be posted on IGTV right now. And check out the other of the previous 41 sessions we have already done with other alumni. And stay tuned. Also, because over the next months, we will also live share some of the experiences from the upcoming bootcamp. And yeah, so Adrienne, have a lovely day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.